Okay, boys, let's see if we can reverse jinx the Suns, because apparently we did that to the Kings. They've won like 5 games in a row since I did that video. The Suns are 3 games below 500. As I'm doing this, they play the Hawks tonight. If you're watching this the next day, then that game already happened, but yeah, things are not going well. Remember the first 10 games of the year where they were winning a lot of close games, and then, KD missed a stretch, and then that kind of opened the floodgates for just not good things happening here, and, Book just had a recent stretch where he missed some games, so okay, but KD, Book, and Beal have played 15 games together this year. They're a negative when those three are on the court together. Suns fans are mad at Nurkic every time I look. Now, they are 9-6 in those games, which is still not great, but it's a little better than what the negative lineup thing sounds like. But a lot of those games were at the beginning of the season. And so now Coach Bud has got Beal and Nurkic coming off the bench. Ryan Dunn and Plumlee started in the last one against the Hornets. For the season, they're 10th in offense and 25th in defense. I think for me, what looks the worst with this team is how they can have these stretches in what feels like all their losses where they just look really bad. Like in the fourth quarter against the Warriors, where, okay, Book did not play in that game, but the fourth quarter, they've got a lead with like 5 or 6 minutes left, and they don't score at all for what feels like 4 minutes. They don't get a field goal for what feels like a very long stretch of the fourth quarter, and they basically only had one real play, which was KD operating within the mid-range with his back to the basket, sometimes screening for Tyus Jones to attempt to get a switch, sometimes just backing down Kuminga in the post, whatever. And the Warriors, they were just ready for it like every time. Like they're throwing multiple bodies at him, they're swiping at him from behind, whatever. And then the one play I remember where they didn't go to that, it was just a Beal ISO contested three that he just completely airballed. Draymond also had some great defensive plays in that fourth quarter where he's like, switching on to KD. He was a bit handsy on one possession on KD. Maybe there was a foul that should have been called, I don't know. He helped on Beal for a couple, blocked a Tyus Jones floater, but I did feel like the Suns' process on offense just was not good, right? Then we go to a recent loss to the Grizzlies, where there's one play that sticks out in my mind. If there's one play that has to sum up just the energy that I have for the Suns right now. So, well, first off, Book did play in this game. Beal only played like 12 minutes, whatever. John Conchar, late in the game, strolls past the entire Suns defense to get wide open underneath the basket to get a pass from Desmond Bane for a three-point play. And this wasn't like the Grizzlies were pushing it super hard in transition on this one play. You could tell that it was a total miscommunication where no one on the Suns established who was picking him up and also who was guarding the rim. Like, it was really bad. But also in that fourth quarter, like, they got lucky on one play where Desmond Bane took a bad three, and this is as Jaren is just cooking Mason Plumlee all night to Iguodala a little bit. Nurkic was not playing in this game. But yeah, Bane takes a bad three, doesn't go in, and then they immediately give up an offensive rebound to Jalen Wells, who tips it back to Bane, who then gets a layup. And I think Conchar also got another big offensive rebound down that stretch as well. They just look really flat for these stretches of games. Like, sure, you're going to get your KD and your Book making contested jumpers and all that nice stuff, but you're going to need more than that. I mean, their recent loss to the Hornets, I think I counted like 5 to 10 just really bad transition defense plays from them where Miles Bridges and Nick Richards are leaking out after a Ryan Dunn missed three for a lob, or Nick Smith is walking into a very, very wide open three at the top of the key, or what felt like a few plays where LaMelo, just from pushing it, was able to get matched up onto like Plumlee or Nurkic in transition. What do you do about the defense? This Mike Budenholzer defense, where typically he's been able to figure it out defensively with his teams. Granted, he had Drew, Giannis, and Brook, Horford, and Millsap when they were younger, but whatever. Well, I feel like the only option you kind of have is just leaning on more of your defensive-minded guys, like Royce O'Neal with KD and Book is at a plus 20 for the season in the 15 games they've played together. As I say that, Royce is currently dealing with an ankle injury. I mean, Okogie has gotten minutes lately. We all know he's going to play hard, but we also know the teams are just not going to be scared of him on offense. Similar thing with Ryan Dunn. Dunn made some threes versus Philly. Shout out to him. He's at 31% from three on the year. The other thing, too, though, is like if they need Tyus out there just to keep the turnovers down, because we know what it was like last year when they didn't have that point guard, right? Well, then you're already devoting one spot to a non-defender, and your defense is not good, as we know. So that's awkward. I mean, for what it's worth, Grayson and Royce O'Neal have been a positive on the court together this year in 200-something minutes. I know Grayson's efficiency has been a bit worse from last year. He is still at like 59 true shooting, even so, like he's obviously still a threat from out there. Now, I already said in my Jimmy requested a trade video, it is very difficult to imagine Jimmy ending up in Phoenix because besides Beal's no trade clause, that's not the biggest thing. The big thing is I, like many people, do not see why Miami would take on Beal's contract. So if you want to imagine that happening, you're going to have to galaxy brain some 3 or 4 team thing, and my prediction would be that it does not happen. If I'm wrong, then okay, I'll be wrong. Now, I do want to talk about the offense some. It feels like they just take a lot of contested shots. And I wanted to do a little fact-checking on NBA.com. What team in the NBA leads the league in shots attempted where the closest defender is within 2 to 4 feet, it's the Phoenix Suns. 17% of their shots happen where the closest defender is within 2 to 4 feet, which is 3 percentage points higher than the number 2 team. Now, sure, that number can be a little weird, but I do still think it's telling. And then on top of that, sure, like they've adjusted some of their shot chart from a year ago. Like their threes are up, their mid-range is a little down, their shots at the rim is a little up. And yeah, like all that's going to be from Budenholzer's influence. I still wouldn't say that they're now suddenly this like super modern, very efficient shot chart team, but they have gotten a little more caught up with the rest of the league in those regards. So that is cool, but it just feels like KD and Book just need to be great all the time. Where, yes, every team needs their best players to go off, but it feels like these guys needed more than the average team does. And sure, on any given night, both of those guys could just go off for 40-something points. And similar to last year, Book is hovering around 7 assists a game. Like, that's good, but it's not going to fix all the stuff this team's dealing with. As far as smaller trades, I'm sure Bruce Brown will be available. He's played 5 games for the Raptors. He'll probably have a bit of a market. But even then, I think the only pick they can technically trade is their 2031 pick, but they should not move that pick. So yeah, they're in a tough spot. West is loaded. And if they do not turn this around this season, then I think it is time for some uncomfortable conversations in the offseason. And that's assuming that nothing like really, really crazy would happen at the deadline, and you know what I mean.